All right, let's get into it. We usually think of history as something set in stone, right? A story that's already been written down in books. But what if I told you the most honest, the most reliable story isn't written on paper at all? Today, we're teaming up with a fascinating historical detective to see how money itself can unlock some of history's biggest secrets. It's a pretty intense question, isn't it? I mean, we tend to put a lot of faith in the historical records that have been passed down to us, but maybe we shouldn't. Think about it. The official story is almost always written by the winners or by whoever's in power. It's their version that survives. And those records can be twisted. Sagas, chronicles, royal decrees, all of them can be shaped to fit a certain agenda. You can jumble up events, leave out the inconvenient facts, or just flat out invent entire timelines to make your side look better. Suddenly, history isn't just a record, it's a weapon. This incredible insight comes from Alexander Del Mar, the guide for our explainer today. He looked at these ancient Norse sagas and realized they weren't pure history, not even close. He could see they had been tampered with, mutilated, as he so powerfully puts it. So, if the written word can be so easily broken, where do we even begin to look for the truth? Well, what if there was a piece of evidence that was so common, so woven into the fabric of daily life, that you couldn't just erase it? Something that leaves a physical mark on the past, a clue that can't be easily forged. This is where our investigation really begins. Every good mystery needs a detective, right? And ours is a man who dedicated his life to digging through the archives of Europe. But he wasn't just reading old books. No, he was looking at the one piece of evidence that tells its own unvarnished story: money. So let's meet our guy, Alexander Del Mar. And listen, he was no amateur. This was a man trained as a civil and mining engineer. He became the director of the U.S. Bureau of Statistics and a U.S. mining commissioner. His life's work led him to this, and get this, he spent 15 years doing original research in Europe's biggest archives and coin collections. He absolutely knew how to follow a trail of evidence. And his number one tool was this: numismatics. Now, for a lot of people, that just means collecting coins. But for Del Mar, oh, it was a science. He argued that coins are like little public monuments. They carry the stamp of the state that made them, they show you what materials were valued, and they tell you who held the power. They are a literal, physical record of an era. Del Mar knew that while other historians were getting stuck with texts that could be fakes, the study of coins, numismatics, had grown into a serious, rigorous science. It became, as he says, the chief reliance, the main tool, for anyone who is truly serious about uncovering what really happened in the past. So, okay, how does this actually work? Well, Del Mar used this method to crack some major historical cases. First up, how long did the Roman Empire really hang on in Britain? Turns out the coins tell a very different story than the books. You know the old British system, right? Pounds, shillings, and pence. Most people would probably connect that to medieval England, maybe even Charlemagne. But Del Mar, he traced it way, way back. He found it all laid out clear as day in the Roman Theodosian Code from the 5th century. This system was a Roman, through and through. And for Del Mar, the fact that this really complex, kind of weird monetary system stuck around was an unerring clue, a clue that couldn't be wrong. I mean, think about it. Why on earth would the Anglo-Saxons just invent a system like that? They wouldn't. The only reason it survived is because Roman administration and the culture and laws that came with it was still running things in Britain all the way into the 7th century. That's way longer than most historians thought. All right, case number 2. This one is all about the ultimate status symbol of the ancient and medieval world: gold. For Del Mar, figuring out who had the right to mint gold coins was the key to understanding who really held the power. For hundreds of years after the Western Roman Empire supposedly fell, the emperor over in Constantinople, the Basileus, held on to one critical power: the exclusive, almost sacred right to make gold coins. Local kings? Sure, they could mint some silver. But gold? That was reserved for the emperor. It was a symbol that, deep down, all of Christendom was still under one supreme leader. So you can imagine when European kings like Edward III of England suddenly started making their own gold coins, that was a huge deal, a seismic event. This wasn't just about economics. It was a direct challenge to the emperor's authority. Every single one of those gold coins was, as Del Mar put it, a declaration of sovereignty, a token of national independence. And wow, you can't get much more blunt than this. When the Pope, who kinda inherited the empire's authority, tried to push around King Philip of France, the king's response was just absolute fire. This quote perfectly captures that moment, the death of the old imperial dream and the birth of independent nations. And it all started with the money. That was the first shot fired in the revolution.
So, money can rewrite timelines and declare independence. We've seen that. But Delmar's investigation uncovered something even more radical. He found that the very type of money a society uses can tell you if it's in the middle of a revolution.
And here it is. This is a bold claim, and it's totally counterintuitive. Fiduciary money is just currency that isn't made of gold or silver. We're talking iron, copper, paper. Its value comes purely from the trust people have in the government that issues it. And Delmar's big argument? This stuff, not gold, is the true currency of liberation. And he brings the receipts. It makes sense when you think about it. When people rise up, what happens to gold and silver? It gets hoarded. It vanishes. So a new revolutionary government has to create its own money to keep things running. Ancient Sparta used iron discs. The American Revolution was literally funded by paper continentals. The French Revolution had its assignats. And when Scandinavia broke free, it was powered by copper clippings. Every single time, a new, state-backed currency was the key to breaking the old chains. And all of this historical detective work leads us right here to the biggest question of all. If the power to create and control money is so incredibly fundamental, who should be the one to hold that power today? For Delmar, the answer was crystal clear. Creating money isn't just some economic task. He saw it as the most important, most vital function of a sovereign nation. It's the tool that allows a state to manage its economy for the public good and to fuel massive social progress. So this really sets up the central battle that Delmar saw. On one side, you've got money as a state prerogative, a public utility basically, designed to help everyone. And on the other side, you have money treated as a private commodity, controlled by what he called the goldsmith class, which today we'd call big banks and powerful financial players. He argued that when you let private interests run the show, you get endless instability, these crazy cycles of boom and bust that always seem to help the few at the expense of everyone else. So for a government to give away its power over money, to let private banks issue currency or to peg its value to something it can't control, was, in Delmar's mind, a total abdication of its most basic duty. It was basically surrendering its sovereignty. Delmar's journey through history leads us to this one powerful, unavoidable conclusion. Money is never, ever just money. It's a secret history book. It's a declaration of independence. It's the engine of revolution. It is, at its core, the ultimate expression of power. And that leaves us with a really important question for our own time. Delmar followed the money trail from ancient Roman laws to medieval gold coins. If we follow that same trail today, through central bank decisions, through the rise of crypto, through digital payment apps, we have to ask ourselves the exact same question he did. Who truly holds that power in our world? Because as his incredible work shows us, the answer to that question, well, it defines everything.